Welcome back to Mob Truth. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the family. Every new subscriber becomes a soldier in this outfit. And to the ones already here, you're the backbone that keeps this empire growing. Don't forget, the family isn't just on YouTube. Our soldiers are wearing the colors already. Hoodies, mugs, sneakers, all from the official Mob Truth store. You'll find the link down below. Wear it with pride because this thing of ours is spreading. Now, tonight we take a closer look at the man who kept the Chicago outfit alive when Capone was behind bars. A man feared, respected, and remembered as the enforcer. Chicago, the 1920s. A city drowning in jazz, liquor, and shadows. Behind every bar door that swung open, you could smell more than whiskey. You could smell power. This was Prohibition. The law said no alcohol, but the street said otherwise. Hidden in basements, back rooms, and neon-lit clubs, the speakeasies thrived. The music was loud, the women dressed sharp, and the men wore fedoras pulled low. But make no mistake, none of this ran without the mob's blessing. And right there, sitting just a step behind Al Capone, was a man they called Frank Nitti. Unlike Capone, Nitti wasn't flashy. He didn't crave the headlines or the spotlight. Instead, he made himself indispensable where it mattered most. Controlling the supply lines, the smuggling routes, the payoff lists that kept the police looking the other way. Nitti was the kind of man who could walk into a smoky back room and have everyone at the table know who held the real cards. While Capone became the face of the Chicago outfit, Nitti became its backbone. His sharp suits and calm voice masked a ruthless streak. He was known as the enforcer, not because he yelled or bragged, but because when Frank Nitti gave an order, it got done. No questions, no hesitation. Every bottle poured, every note of jazz played in joints like this. A cut went back to the outfit, and Nitti made sure of it. He wasn't just running liquor, he was running order. He made businessmen pay up, competitors back down, and even the police respect his word. Chicago was a city of chaos, but Nitti thrived in chaos. Where others saw a lawless free-for-all, he saw an empire waiting to be built, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, all under the smoke of places like this speakeasy. Capone may have been the king, but Nitti was the man who made sure the kingdom never fell apart. Chicago wasn't just the mob's playground. It was also a city under siege by its own lawmen. Everywhere you looked, blue uniforms patrolled the sidewalks. Every corner had a beat cop watching. Every street a patrol car creeping by, headlights cutting through the mist. The outfit's empire was built in the shadows, but the law was always trying to drag it into the light. Raids became a part of life. Speakeasies, breweries, warehouses. Doors smashed in, bartenders shoved against walls. Barrels rolled into the street and smashed with axes as the crowd gathered to watch the booze flood the gutters. The police wanted to make a show of it. They wanted the papers to say the law was winning. But the truth? The very next night, another truck rolled in. Another speakeasy opened its doors. Another judge took an envelope and turned his head. And right in the middle of this constant storm was Frank Nitti. He understood something most men didn't. You couldn't beat the police with bullets alone. You had to outthink them, outlast them, and, when necessary, outpay them. Nitti built a system of connections so tight that every raid seemed to hit only the places he allowed. Every time the police bragged about a bust, Nitti already had 3 more operations running in the shadows. Detectives knew his name. They knew his face. But proving anything against Nitti was like trying to catch the smoke with bare hands. He was too careful, too smart, too disciplined. While Capone was busy chasing headlines, Nitti was quietly making sure the outfit could survive the headlines. The law leaned hard, but Nitti leaned harder. Cops could flood the streets, prosecutors could shout in court. But the outfit always came back stronger, because Frank Nitti never panicked. He had a calm way about him, even under pressure. Men said you could see it in his eyes, the certainty that the law was just another problem to be managed. And when his crew got nervous, Nitti reminded them, the law comes and goes, but business never stops. To the police, it was a losing battle. For every raid they carried out, the outfit grew more disciplined. For every wagon they filled with arrested bootleggers, Nitti filled another with cash heading straight to City Hall. Chicago wasn't just a city of gangsters. It was a city where corruption ran deeper than the sewers. And no matter how many uniforms filled these streets, one fact stayed the same. Frank Nitti made sure the Chicago outfit kept breathing. He wasn't untouchable, but he was unbreakable. When the streets couldn't break him, the law tried the courtroom. Chicago's judges and prosecutors wanted to do what the cops couldn't: put Frank Nitti behind bars. The city had already witnessed Al Capone dragged down by the government, not with bullets, but with tax forms. And now the same prosecutors sharpened their knives for Nitti. To them, he wasn't just another gangster. He was the quiet architect of the outfit, the man who kept the machine running while Capone sat behind bars. The courtroom was a different battlefield. No guns, no alleys, no muscle, just lawyers in press suits, jurors whispering in the box, and a judge staring down from the bench. Reporters filled the gallery, pencils scratching across paper, hungry to paint Nitti as Capone's heir. Every headline spoke of the enforcer finally cornered. The charges came heavy: bootlegging, conspiracy, tax evasion, extortion. The government wanted to break him the way they broke Scarface, by choking the money flow. But Nitti wasn't Capone. He didn't chase the limelight. He didn't leave trails of excess. He moved quieter, smarter, always 2 steps ahead. Still, the trial had its weight. Witnesses took the stand. Detectives swore under oath. Evidence was paraded before the jury. But even as prosecutors thundered, Nitti sat calm, adjusting his tie, whispering to his lawyers. Men said he had the cold patience of a banker, not the nerves of a gangster. And when the verdicts came, Nitti took his sentence without flinching. He knew prison time was part of the cost of doing business. Unlike Capone, who crumbled under sickness inside, Nitti treated prison like another corner of the outfit's empire. He made allies, kept his mouth shut, and carried himself like a man who was only passing through. Behind bars, his legend grew. Other inmates knew who he was. Guards watched him carefully, but even they understood the respect he commanded. In prison, Nitti didn't whine or beg. He endured. And when he finally walked out of those gates, he didn't return broken. He returned harder, sharper, more dangerous than before. To the law, prison was supposed to be punishment. To Nitti, it was an education. And when he came back to Chicago, he carried himself differently. Men in the outfit looked at him with new eyes. He had stood in front of the law, taken the hit, and survived. The courtroom hadn't destroyed him. It had tested him. And it proved something that even Capone himself never truly mastered. Frank Nitti wasn't just an enforcer, he was a survivor. By the early 1930s, the balance of power in Chicago had shifted. Capone was finished, locked away in federal prison. The newspapers had their headlines, the government had its trophy. But the outfit was still alive. And someone had to keep it beating. That man was Frank Nitti. This wasn't a role he grabbed with noise and blood. Nitti never wanted to be the center of attention. He didn't crave the spotlight, the photographers, or the bold headlines. He preferred the shadows, the back rooms, the quiet conversations where real power was decided. But when the outfit looked for leadership, Nitti was the natural choice. He had been at Capone's side for years. He knew the networks, the rackets, the men who mattered. Most importantly, he had already proven himself, surviving the cops, surviving the courts, surviving prison. To the outfit, that was loyalty, intelligence, and toughness all rolled into one. And so the quiet man became the boss. Not the flashy kind, but the steady hand. His nickname, the Enforcer, wasn't just about violence. It was about control, order, discipline. Nitti knew when to push, when to threaten, and when to let money do the talking. Under his watch, the outfit expanded far beyond bootlegging. With Prohibition ending, the gangs had to evolve. Nitti moved into labor racketeering, gambling, extortion. He understood something most mobsters didn't. Crime wasn't just about the streets anymore. It was about business. And Nitti treated the outfit like a corporation. Structured, organized, profitable. One of his boldest moves reached far outside Chicago, into Hollywood itself. Studio executives found themselves paying protection money to keep labor unions under control. The message was clear. If you wanted your cameras rolling and your actors safe, you paid the outfit. That was Nitti's genius. He turned the mob from a street gang into an enterprise with national reach. To outsiders, Nitti looked like a polite businessman in a neat suit. But those who crossed him learned quickly that the enforcer still lived up to his name. Men who refused to play ball didn't last long. Businesses that resisted suddenly found themselves smashed, burned, or shut down overnight. By the mid-1930s, Frank Nitti wasn't just Capone's old lieutenant. He was the man running Chicago. His word carried weight in every corner. From the union halls to the movie lots, from the taverns of Cicero to the banks downtown. He wasn't loud, he wasn't reckless, but his power was undeniable. Frank Nitti had survived the streets. He had survived the law, and now he stood as the boss who proved that organized crime could be more than chaos. It could be a business, one enforced with silence, steel, and fear. This was the era of the enforcer. Not every empire is built in marble offices or boardrooms. Some are built in back alleys, in smoky garages like this. For Frank Nitti, these hidden spaces were the heart of the outfit. Cars rolled in with false panels, liquor tucked away under seats, crates hidden beneath spare tires. Mechanics who turned wrenches by day doubled as smugglers by night. And in every corner of Chicago, little workshops like this became the beating engine of organized crime. This was Nitti's genius. He turned the outfit into a machine, a business where everyone had a role and everything was accounted for. Truck drivers, union men, bartenders, mechanics. They were all part of the system. If one part broke, another filled in. That's why the cops could never shut it down completely. Nitti wasn't loud about it. He didn't need to brag. He let the money and the orders speak for themselves. His men respected him because he gave clear instructions. He wasn't a wild boss throwing tantrums. He was precise, calculated, cold, and the business went beyond alcohol. With Prohibition winding down, Nitti saw the future. Gambling dens and back rooms, protection rackets across the city, extortion schemes that reached into every neighborhood. If you owned a business in Chicago, from a small shop on the corner to a hotel downtown, sooner or later Nitti's men came knocking, and everyone knew it was better to pay than to resist. Even here in a greasy garage, you could feel his control. Every tool on the wall, every spare tire stacked in the corner, every hidden compartment in those cars, it all told the same story. The outfit wasn't chaos anymore. It was organization. And at the top of that organization sat Frank Nitti. For the man they called the enforcer, violence was always an option. But efficiency was the real weapon. The streets of Chicago, step outside the garages and into the streets, and you could see it plain as day. Chicago in the 1930s wasn't just a city, it was a map of the outfit's power. Every corner told a story. The neon glow of cafes and dance halls, the smoky windows of nightclubs that never seemed to close, storefronts where businessmen smiled by day, and slipped envelopes into the hands of mob collectors by night. The outfit didn't just control the underworld, they controlled the neighborhood itself. And in the middle of it all was Frank Nitti. Capone had been the face of excess, reporters chasing him, cameras flashing. But Nitti, he was quieter, sharper. He ruled not through chaos, but through routine. Every cafe, every bar, every gambling joint in districts like Cicero and the Loop paid its share. The outfit didn't need to shout to prove their presence. The streets themselves whispered it. Men said you could walk down Clark Street or through Little Italy and feel the outfit's eyes on you. Union halls, bars, and storefronts all kicked up to Nitti's organization. Everyone paid because everyone knew resistance came with a price. Sometimes it was a smashed window, sometimes it was a beating in the alley, and sometimes the price was far worse. But there was another side to it too. In neighborhoods where the outfit collected, crime from outsiders dropped, shops didn't get robbed, drunks didn't break into homes, and the local grocer could count on staying open. That was the double-edged sword of the mob. They were predators, but they were also protectors. And Frank Nitti played that role with precision. He walked the line between fear and respect. To his men, he was the enforcer who demanded discipline. To shop owners and club owners, he was the man who made sure things ran smooth. And to the city of Chicago, he became a ghost who never needed to show his face. His power was everywhere, but his name rarely left the lips of those who feared him. By the mid-1930s, the outfit wasn't just a criminal gang anymore. Under Nitti's hand, it was an empire woven into the very fabric of Chicago's streets. Every block, every corner, every door with a lock on it, all of it lived under the shadow of Frank Nitti. The king was gone, but the enforcer ruled on. By the 1940s, the storm finally caught up to Frank Nitti, the man who had outlasted Capone, the man who had survived the police, the courts, and prison, now found himself cornered by something even he couldn't outthink. The government was coming for the outfit's labor rackets. Indictments were drawn, witnesses lined up, and for the first time, it wasn't just about booze or gambling. It was about a national case, one that could put Nitti away for life. On paper, he was still the enforcer, but behind closed doors, the pressure weighed heavy. Men whispered that the years of prison had left scars. Others said sickness was eating at him. What's certain is that the fear he never showed in public was now gnawing at him in private. And so, one cold morning, Frank Nitti walked alone into the streets, not into a boardroom, not into a cafe, not into one of the speakeasies where he had once built his empire. He walked into silence, an empty street, a world of shadows and rain. The man who had built order out of chaos was now face to face with the one thing he couldn't control: the weight of the law closing in the walls of his own mind. He pulled a revolver from his coat, not the weapon of an enforcer striking fear into enemies, but the weapon of a man who had run out of moves. Witnesses later said he paused, that he looked down the street as if seeing the empire he had ruled. The cafes, the clubs, the garages, the outfit that had thrived under his hand. For a moment, Frank Nitti stood as he always had, a man in a sharp coat, fedora pulled low, revolver in his grip, the enforcer of Chicago. And then, with one pull of the trigger, it ended. The sound of the shot echoed down the alley, bouncing off the walls of buildings that had once paid tribute to him. In an instant, Frank Nitti was gone. The man who had survived every battle, every indictment, every street war, had chosen to end his story on his own terms. For Chicago, it was the end of an era. The outfit lived on. It always did. But the quiet hand that had shaped it through the years of Capone's downfall was no more. Frank Nitti's name would never shine as bright as Al Capone's. He never wanted it to. But in the underworld, respect isn't measured by headlines. It's measured by survival, by power, by the fear and order you leave behind. And for nearly 2 decades, Frank Nitti was the man who kept the outfit breathing. The man who proved that a boss didn't have to shout to be heard. The man who enforced discipline with silence as much as violence. When the smoke cleared in that alley, Chicago had lost its enforcer. And history gained one more reminder that even the strongest men of the mob are not immortal. This was the rise and fall of Frank Nitti, the man who enforced the law of the streets until the shadows enforced their own law on him. And that, soldiers, was the story of Frank Nitti, the enforcer. A man who kept the outfit alive through silence, order, and fear. A man who proved that the mob didn't need noise to rule, just discipline. If you made it this far, you're not just a viewer. You're part of the Mob Truth family now. Hit that subscribe button and join the ranks. Every new subscriber is another soldier in this family. And trust me, this family is only getting stronger. To all the soldiers already here, your loyalty keeps this empire standing. Every like, every comment, every view. It builds the foundation of Mob Truth. And as the channel grows, so does the story we're telling together. But the family doesn't stop on YouTube. The outfit's colors are out there in the real world too. Hoodies, mugs, caps, even sneakers, all stamped with the Mob Truth brand. Soldiers across the world are already repping it. If you want to wear the colors to show where your loyalty lies, the Mob Truth store is open for you 24/7. The link is right there in the description and pinned comment. Step inside, pick your gear, and wear it with pride. This channel isn't just about stories from the past. It's about building something in the present. Something for all of us who respect the history, the discipline, and the truth behind the mob's rise and fall. And as always, here at Mob Truth, we don't just tell stories. We preserve the legacy. So hit subscribe, join the family, wear the colors, and walk with us into the next story. Because this thing of ours is only getting bigger. Welcome to the family, soldiers. This is mob truth. Hat, military cap.